Hey y'all, I'm Niccara, and welcome to another episode of But Make It Books, a podcast where we are bookishly healing through life. Come on, y'all, let's go healing. Hey everyone, and welcome to another bookish episode with me, Niccara, your bookish host in all things, and this is But Make It Books, a podcast where we are bookishly healing through life. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to be in the space and place with Desiree Moodie. So welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
We're
Thank
happy
you.
to
Guys.
have
I've been
you.
looking forward to this for weeks.
Oh, I love to hear it.
Uh,
So what we like to do on But Make It Books is a little check-in. So how you doing? How you feeling?
I am good. It's Memorial Day. The weather in New York is
Okay.
but we are gonna try to make a day of it.
Listen, I
Um,
just got back from the beach, so I'm confused why I'm
oh,
back in Maryland, but we're here seeing as I drop my phone down the trash
yeah.
chute.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you were traveling.
Yes, I
Love
was.
Cali.
Believe me, your book offered the perfect backdrop to
Thank you.
my
That's good to know.
to my destination. So what we like to do because I'm from Baltimore. So instead of an icebreaker, we call it a snowball.
Okay.
So what is your top staple for anybody visiting Brooklyn?
Oh, top staple for anybody visiting Brooklyn. Oh, that is a tough one. Tough because there are just a few things that I want to name.
Okay.
But if I have to pick one thing, if you're coming to Brooklyn, I would say, especially if you're coming during the nicer weather,
Uh-huh.
go out to Coney Island.
Okay.
Yeah, go out to Coney Island, walk the boardwalk, have a Nathan's hot dog with some fries. Yeah, and just chill. It is still a spot where you definitely still can get a old New York vibe. And there
Yeah.
aren't many places
Where you can get that
around
anymore.
left where you can get that. So yeah.
So funny enough, I've lived in New York and I've never been to Coney Island.
You know,
I know
I'm not
it's
surprised.
something I'm judging myself for daily. I plan to go. That's
Yeah.
like on my bucket list this summer, to hit Coney Island because it's not that far
No,
for me
yeah,
to
well,
drive up.
when you're out, we'll make a field trip.
Yes, we need to make a field trip to Coney
Yes,
Island,
yes.
honestly. So before we start, I want to give the folks in the space and place with us today a little bit about your bio. So Desiree Moodie has been writing stories since before she could talk. As a child, she spent her weekends creating homemade books, scribbling on notepaper, stapling the pages together like a miniature publishing house. Today, Desiree is the author of dark, twisted stories full of morally complex characters, sharp dialogue, and layered plots. Her writing is influenced by her travels, old school noir films, and yes, pro wrestling. She still watches sometimes, no judgment allowed. We listen and we don't judge. She has a particular soft spot for difficult women and clever villains, the kind who are just charming enough to make you root for them even when you know you shouldn't. She believes that words have immense power and should be wielded with intention, whether to challenge, delight, or simply keep you flipping the pages into the early hours of the morning. When she's not writing, you can find her watching reruns of Perry Mason, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, practicing her Laura Bacall impression, and daydreaming about young Harrison Ford, and yes, older Harrison too. Again, we listen and we don't judge. She's also a sucker,
Okay.
sucker for a bold red lip and interesting locales, both in fiction and in real life. Her goal to create writing beautifully written, complex stories that stay with you longer after you turn the last page. And if you love morally ambiguous characters and a well-earned twist, you will find her right at home in her world. Desiree loves hearing from readers, so don't be shy. Drop her a line. Just don't yell in all the caps and don't be nasty.
No, don't do
No,
that.
this is not a Real Housewives episode. Don't be nice, nasty. We don't have
Don't do
time.
that. Have some manners, please. Yes.
Yes. So first, before we start, because we are talking about your newest release, The Perfect Mother.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I
Thank
know
you.
it's your baby, your other baby in the
My
world.
other, yeah, my other baby. Yes.
So how do you feel? It's out there. You're getting reviews. How's it going?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels good. I've been working on this one for
Mhm.
quite some time. And so it just feels good that it's done, it's
Yeah.
out there. People are talking about it. I
Mhm.
just really just what I want to do. Just wanted to spark some conversation. And no, it feels good. Definitely.
So you said you've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
So tell us about that moment when you knew this was it. Like it was burning in you to
It was really
write Dawn
the
and
moment.
Evelyn's story. Like what was happening in your life at that moment to
Well, I was definitely still in an early motherhood haze for
okay.
sure.
Not the haze.
Haze. Okay. Yes, that's what it was. I was definitely in an early motherhood haze. I was actually so first of all that you're gonna be back to normal in 6 weeks is just BS, right? Just stop telling women that.
Can we
And
be
it,
honest about motherhood? Like actually?
yes, we can. That's the whole point of this book. Let's be
Yes. Yep.
honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it took me 3 years before I started to feel not even just like back to my old self because there's no back to your old self, but
Hmm.
like adjusted to the new normal. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like 2.5, 3 years. But I was definitely in a space where I wanted to get back to writing, try to find a way to work that again into my new reality. And I had had another book that I knew was supposed to be my next one, right? And I was already in the middle of writing this book. And not only was I in the middle of writing this book was the first in a series of three, supposed to be the first in a series of three.
Oh.
And the idea for the perfect mother, though, just came to me during one of those like hazy mornings after not having slept,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And would not let go. So I'm
Mhm.
just like, what do I do? Do I finish this book? And then if I finish this book, do I finish the other two?
Yeah.
What do I? But it wouldn't leave me alone. It wouldn't leave me alone. So I finished the book that I was working on and released it. But the launch was mad because I wasn't there. I was really thinking about this other one. So I basically abandoned the series and was like, no, I'm gonna write this one. Um, and I wrote it, and
Mhm.
it started out, well, two things. One was a weird dream I had where I had gone into my son's nursery in the morning and instead of him, the baby, there was just a grown man there. You know what I mean? And it was weird.
Yeah.
Grown, yeah. But in the dream, I knew that he was my son just years later,
Mhm.
right? There was that. And then there was also my experience. And you can tell me if you think this is normal or not, because in my mind, I'm like, this can't be normal. People don't really do this, right? It's just that how many people joked playfully, and I'm putting that in air quotes, about wanting to snatch my child. Like,
No, people do say that though. People do
okay,
say that. Like, and I don't have any kids, but people have said that around my friends who do have children.
yes.
And they're like, "Oh, your kid is so great. Like, I would just want to take them and make them mine." I'm like, "Whoa, that's
Yeah.
weird."
Yeah. One too many people joked about that with me. Um, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Talk about that. And so that kind of just made me start thinking like, what would I do? And the story kind of just
Mhm.
evolved from there. And while the events in the story obviously did not happen to me, thank God, the emotional journey was
Yeah.
very much, I could very much relate to
Mhm.
just a lot of the emotions around the things that were happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the moment that I knew. Like when I'm thinking of things, as soon as I wake up and they won't go away, I'm like,
You
this is
gotta,
God telling me
you gotta
follow
do
this,
it.
follow this path. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And the way you talked about it, I want to talk about a little bit how you talked about motherhood. And I think, especially right now in this type of climate,
Mm,
you explore motherhood beyond biology.
right.
In a world that often narrows the definition of what makes a woman, what makes a good mom. How do
Hmm.
your characters like challenge or complicate those expectations of
Right.
motherhood?
Right. Um, the one definitely thing I think that I wanted to challenge, maybe consciously, and I think the rest of it was sort of unconsciously, but
Mhm.
consciously, this notion that we all are born a wanting to be moms and knowing that we want to be moms.
Mhm.
It's not the truth. Nor is there anything wrong with you
Yes.
if you don't want to be or if you don't know if you want to be. My
Mhm.
path to motherhood took a while, a long
Mhm.
time. I'm one of those quote unquote older moms. Um, and much like Dawn, I was very ambivalent toward
Hmm.
motherhood just all throughout my early adult life. And it really
Right.
wasn't until I was knocking on 40's door, which is so funny because I joked with all my friends when I was younger, like, watch me wake up at 40 and decide I want to have a baby. You know what I mean? Which
Look,
is
me and
pretty
you are
much
in the same
exactly
wheelhouse. It's getting
how
there for
it
me. I'm
happened,
like,
you know? And yeah, and it wasn't until I was really, really close knocking on 40's door that I was like, you know what?
mm-hmm.
On second thought,
Yeah. On second
you
thought, I
know,
think I want to do this.
maybe I might could want to do this. So there was that, right? And then does that make you any less of a mom because you didn't come to the conclusion quickly and fervently like
Right.
a lot of women do? And then the other thing I think that gets challenged, particularly with Dawn's story, is for much of the novel, she loses her son when he's a baby,
Right.
right? Is she now not a mom? You know,
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
still has this fierce love for him. Never, when everyone else in the world gave up looking for him, she never did.
Right.
Is she now not a mom? And then you have our other mom, Evelyn, who is, raising a child that's not hers
Right.
biologically. And though we all want to fight the air when she comes onto the page, she is mothering that child
Yes.
and is not really doing a bad job of it in
Right.
in the grand scheme of things. So there is all of that. Is it nature? Is it nurture? And listen, I'm not saying I have the answers to any of these questions.
Right.
But I think it's fun and important to talk about because we get caught up that it has to look one way, and especially online, people just get so judgy. And listen, this
Yes.
the job is hard. It's impossible.
Ooh.
We need to give each other so much more grace than we do because, yeah,
Yeah.
mom was hard AF.
It is. I give you guys all the
Under the
blessings
best
because,
circumstances, it's hard AF.
yeah, I don't
So,
even know how you guys do it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sitting here like, I look at my friends, I'm like, y'all mad mature.
yeah.
Y'all mad mature. I'm like, wow, that's a
I
lot.
think one thing too I want to say about that, and this is also born of sort of my own personal journey, and I think that this is changing slowly, but it's changing, is that this pressure, especially on women to sort of have it together and get it
Mhm.
together younger, we don't need that, right?
Yeah.
Now, I do not want to take away from anyone's experience who is having trouble or anything like that because I know that that does happen and my heart does go out to them. I was very fortunate and just lucky and blessed to not have had any struggles.
Hmm.
It's pretty much as soon as I wanted to get pregnant, I got pregnant. Even my doctor was like, wait a second, you conceived naturally? I was like, yeah, totally did. Yeah, totally did. No, no, nothing. And it's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really.
Yeah, some be in shock with me. Listen, we're
Yeah.
here
Like
together.
I'm not the first 40-year-old pregnant woman you guys have
Listen, you're
seen,
not.
right? Can I possibly have been? So, let's give each other
Mhm.
time. You
Yeah.
have time. There's a lot of benefits to waiting, that we don't talk about. It's all about what journey is the truest and works for you.
Yeah. Like,
It's
what is
all
your
I'm saying.
true journey?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I guess, yeah, don't
Hmm.
be scared. If you want to wait, wait.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, I
Mhm.
am. Um,
Yeah.
I ain't got
Yeah.
nobody running here. Listen, I just dropped my phone down the trash. You. Who am I to mother right now? No way,
Right,
Jose.
right.
No way, Jose. So you grief becomes something sharp
Mm,
when it's buried way too
mm-hmm,
long.
mm-hmm.
How did you approach writing about the physical, almost violent nature of suppressed grief?
So that was yeah. I
Yeah.
think channeling my own experience with losing a pregnancy,
Hmm.
um right before what was it right before? It was like a year before I was pregnant with my son. Me and my husband, we were pregnant for
Hmm.
about 3 months. That was devastating.
Hmm.
And I think what people don't tell you is that like grief is not something that like you can manage
Yeah.
away, or you can try, like it might work temporarily, but like eventually you have to pay the piper and it will come back, and it will come back and hit you in ways that
Mhm.
you just don't expect, right? And it's so weird because like it was a year literally to the day from when I miscarried that I found out I was pregnant again, like exactly to the day. And it was just like such a wonderful experience. And then it surprised me even that even throughout that experience of being pregnant and carrying my child and
Yeah.
delivering it healthily and all that there would still be little pockets of grief
Yeah.
in there for the child that I lost, right? I don't know what would happen if anybody decided that they wanted to just don't do it. Don't even think about it, snatching my child, right?
Right.
But I think channeling some of that, and I can imagine it's a very different kind of grief, but just channeling some of that into the ache that both women really feel
Hmm.
because Evelyn, she has her own struggles,
Right.
prior to her making the decision that she makes. And then ironically, 10 years after that, she boom conceives and gives birth to healthy twins, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's just you can't predict it. You just kind of have to really, really surrender it. Let me tell you something. If you're a person who like has control issues, me, I'm the person. Motherhood will definitely put those in check. They'll put those in check right away.
Yes,
Right
won't
away.
it
Or at
though?
least it will hold up a mirror and let you know,
Listen,
like, guess what? You cannot
look at
take
you looking
back
at,
control
parents love
everything.
telling you, grandparents love saying,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it ain't all fun when the rabbit got the gun. It's real
Yeah.
cute now. They
Yeah.
laughing. They're like, ha ha ha. That's you,
Yeah.
how you used to be. They're like, yeah, it don't feel good, huh? Getting to taste your own medicine. You're like, God dang, like, you getting a little bit too much joy out of this.
Hmm.
Like getting too much joy. My grandma used to say that all the time to my parents, both of my
Yeah.
grandparents.
Yeah.
It was very funny. Uh, there is also something you talk about, which is like my favorite type of like
Okay. I see you
thriller.
smiling. I'm like, what is it?
Yeah, suburban life.
Mm. Hmm.
Because under the beautiful white picket fence, the idyllic lawns, the fresh manicure, the 2.5 kids with the
Yep.
dog and the vine vineyard yards, whatever that dang on whale is, vineyard vines, all of those little
Yeah.
things. There's something like deeply menacing about suburbia because it masks and suppresses so much. You wrote in your novel, it just like has a feral kind of quality on in it.
Yeah.
Especially when Homegirl was going to get the coffee and was watching, I was like, what are we doing? You do
Yeah.
me a lot with a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
What is it about these seemingly perfect communities that makes such fertile ground for like for psychological tension to come
Yeah.
to a head?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that I think you hit it right on the head. It is that's pressure to be perfect and the to keep up the appearances and to keep up with the Joneses. I always find it funny saying that phrase because my last name technically is Jones. That is my married name. I publish under my maiden name, but to keep up with the Joneses, that's me. Hey, I'm the Joneses.
Joneses.
But because like real life is not like that, and real
Mhm.
people are it's just life is just messy again under the
Messy.
best circumstances, right?
Yeah.
And these types of settings, they just do not allow for that mess.
Right.
And I think that one of the scenes, interestingly enough, where I feel like really drives that home is when Evelyn goes to confront the mom of Daniel's friend who won't let him come to his birthday party.
Mhm.
And it's a clear situation of bigotry and discrimination, right? Um,
Right.
but she has to calculate how she approaches it because this woman has a much higher standing in their community
Community.
than she does. And it's just kind of like I can't even like call this out in the way a normal person would call this out because
Mhm.
I'm gonna and that's crazy. That's sick. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yes, the appearance is of everything. What people do to keep up those appearances, what people it is a fertile breeding ground for all kinds of just is it psychosis the word I want to neurosis
Yes.
is the word I want to use. And yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So you with suburbia, we talked a little bit earlier in the conversation about motherhood.
Hmm.
Fiction, you say this. Fiction gives us the permission to explore uncomfortable truths in a safe container.
Hmm.
What uncomfortable truths were you most afraid of to explore in this book? And how did fiction make that possible?
Oh, very good. Well, I mean, I definitely wanted to safely explore certain themes around revenge and violence, for
Yes.
sure, safely without actually hurting anyone in real
Yes, without hurting anyone.
and potentially going to jail.
Yes.
And I guess we can talk more about that because I know you have questions about the ending. So we can talk more about that when we get to that. But that was
Listen.
definitely one thing I wanted to explore safely.
Mhm.
I also wanted to explore because there is a racial component to the book as well, you
Right.
know. It's subtle but not subtle because the woman who loses her child is a black woman and the woman who raises him is a white woman. And
Right.
that, to me anyway, raises a whole nother set of questions, which is even if you can, I don't want to say relate, but even if you can try to understand and rationalize from Evelyn's perspective
Hmm.
where she was coming from and what made her do what she did, would she have done that with a white woman's baby? That's one question that I
Yes,
have.
because who gets to be a mother in our society, right?
Right. Would she have snatched a white woman's baby?
Probably
Also,
not.
talking about Daniel, and because he didn't move that far,
Hmm.
he was never found. Why was he never found? Probably because they weren't looking all that hard.
Correct.
If this was a white woman who lost her baby, I have a feeling he might have been recovered, right? Um, if the tables were flipped and we have at the end, if it's Evelyn who is, suffering in this way and she takes matters into her own hands the way that Dawn did, does she end up in jail? These are all
Yeah.
kinds of just very flip the yardstick kind of questions that I was also kind of trying to put out there subtly as well. But certainly the revenge and violence aspect for sure is much safer explored on the page than it is in real life.
In real life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that brings me to another question, and we talked about it a little bit about like in our society who is
Hmm.
valued as a mother, who's valued as a woman,
Yeah,
womanhood as a virtue.
yeah,
Um, I I think about it often, especially throughout my work professionally, and then also just reading in the pages of books about who gets to be a woman. And we'll use America as the context.
yeah.
Who gets to be a woman, who gets to be a mother. And I think
Hmm.
you do that really well because Dawn, obviously, she was going through grief, but I don't think she just landed upon it while Evelyn
Right,
was like desperately searching for it.
right.
Um, why was it important for you to place it to have them be both black and white and
Hmm.
explore those racial contexts, but then also putting it in suburbia?
Hmm.
Because those are two things that are colliding against each other
Hmm.
dynamic way, and we touch about it in different parts of the conversation, but the racial dynamic in suburbia,
Hmm.
mixing it
Hmm.
together.
Yeah. So in terms of the racial dynamic, I think it was important for me to do that way because another theme that the book grapples with is identity. And
Hmm.
we explore that through Daniel, who gets his own POV chapters later on when he becomes a young man. Um, and that question of, who I really am,
Hmm.
Daniel, in a way, is allegorical to everyone in the diaspora, right?
Right.
Um, because so many of us can only trace our lineage back a few generations
Yes.
because slavery, right? So,
Mhm. That's
ex
slavery.
right? So, exploring that through him was definitely one of the impetuses for making um there be a racial difference between the two moms, and also because of the questions that I raised earlier, and
Mhm.
your way of kind of sort of summing them all up under this big question of who gets to be a mother and who gets um to be a valued mother
A
at that
valued
point,
mother.
you know um without getting too handmaid's tale with it, but yeah,
Right. I need to
they
go back to that. I heard
whoa,
it's good.
okay. So definitely that. And then suburbia, absolutely. I wanted it again because of the secrets and because of the different layers. They wouldn't have been able, I don't think, to hide as well in a big city space.
You're right.
Um, not from themselves, not from everyone else.
And you know that better than
Um,
anybody in New York. You've run into somebody more than once. You're like, wait a minute now.
right. And and I've also lived in because my dad was in the army, so I've lived
Yeah.
in those kinds of all the houses look the same.
Hmm.
Everybody acts the same situations too, so I know like how it is. They just it provides a cover for them in a
Hmm.
sense, you know. Um, do people probably, especially in the beginning, looking at them kind of weird, like what's what's going on there with this family
Yeah.
dynamic? Yeah, but they are too polite to
Hmm. To
go out
ask
and
the real question they want to ask
ask
out
the
their
real
mouth.
question,
Yeah.
whereas somebody in the city might have been like, "So, tell me about this situation here."
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, that cover of being in
Yeah.
this book, nobody's gonna look, and again, nobody's going into these spaces. And when I say nobody, I'm talking about like law enforcement, right?
Hmm.
They're not intentionally going into these spaces looking for wrongdoing, looking for crimes, looking for
Right.
evidence of foul play of any
Right.
kind, right? The cops are not patrolling their streets looking for anything there. So, um, and because it's just the best place I think to really explore those themes of secrets and lives and facades
Hmm.
and watching the facades unravel against the backdrop of these pristine houses. To me, it was just yeah, it was fun to write. It really was.
I love that.
Yeah,
So let's talk about you included an alternate ending.
I did.
What made you give readers the choice? Like you were like in Black Mirror. And how
I
you
love
were
that
like you
reference.
might get a different little episode. And how do those two endings reflect different truths about these characters?
Perfect. Okay, so spoiler alerts. I mean, this whole show was a spoiler alert. So,
Yeah.
but I'm sure you guys know, right?
Yes.
So the what made me want to do that was when I was writing that scene for like the 50th time. It occurred to me that so at the beginning of the scene, well, first once Daniel reconnects or meets Jeffrey, right? The very
Hmm.
next scene flips to him talking to Dawn, and there's the big sort of reveal there. And then we go back in time to see sort of how that happened, right?
Hmm.
And so in that final scene, the beginning of that final scene, Dawn is really looking at two sets of messages on her phone, right? Because the conversation between Daniel and his biological father, Dawn's ex-husband,
Hmm.
and the interrogation of Luke by Medina, that's happening in the same time. And they are both texting Dawn at the
Yep.
same time. And Dawn has these two sets of messages, and she chooses to follow Medina's trail,
Hmm.
versus, and she kind of ignores Jeffrey. And it occurred to me that had she just done the opposite, had she really looked at and answered Jeffrey's messages first, the whole ending of the book could have been different.
Hmm.
Probably would turn out different. And so again, I wanted to pull that thread. Oh, how would this look differently if she had chosen differently? And then I had this whole other ending. And then, but it was the first one that really felt true to me. And so
Yeah.
I offered the other one as just hey, so if you want to see, and it's funny because a lot of people are saying that I've seen people say that they have preferred that, and I kind of expected it because I knew that there were going to be certain people that were going to have a problem um with the way that Dawn conducts
But
herself.
that's real life.
And it's and when I tell you that
Cause
that
you
scene
touch my, you come in my home, you touch my child. No, I'm killing
I
you. Like
wasn't writing that
that's
scene
why
as
I'm
a
like, I
writer. I was
don't.
writing that scene as a mom. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like every time I showed up to the page to
Yeah.
write that scene, it was as a mom, and that was the only ending that felt true to me.
Hmm.
If it were me, 100% I would have done the same thing.
We ride
Maybe,
at dawn. We
yeah.
ride at dawn.
Yeah.
No
So,
puns intended.
yeah.
We ride at dawn.
So that is exactly why that happened. But I thought it was fun to explore
Mhm.
sort of this what if things could have ended differently. And I just put that in there as a bonus for people in case, they wanted to. And I wanted to spark some more conversation. So who was really for? And I had so many people said I did not blame Dawn at all for what she did. You know what I mean?
Listen,
And I'm like, yeah,
put her in the dirt. So
sorry, but not sorry.
sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
So you write about wielding words with
Mhm.
intention, whether to challenge, delight, or simply keep you flipping the page. But the perfect mother, which of those goals felt most important to you, or all the above?
I mean, I definitely wanted to keep people's open pages for
Yeah.
sure. But I did want people to think about certain things differently, even if it doesn't change your overall perspective,
Mhm.
to just explore maybe a different way looking um of looking at moms. And it's a funny, just to call back to your question earlier about um what things feel safer to explore on the page, just that whole other side of motherhood, right? The side
Yeah.
that really you're not supposed to talk about with anybody
Yes.
online, because people will look at you funny or people will shame
Mhm.
you if you're not saying anything that is 100% glowing and complimentary or whatever, whatever about your experience as a mom.
Mhm.
That, because it is not all.
Roses and sunshine
It is
and
not. It is
melons.
not. I love my son to death, but it is, there are parts of motherhood that just feel not good at times, okay?
Yeah.
And that are just impossible at times and just are crazy making at times. And I feel like we need to give space for women to talk about that and to vent that, and that it's
Mhm.
not complaining and that it's not, no, I wouldn't choose anything else, but this is also part of the reality, and I need to process this and talk about it. And I need that to be okay with people.
Yeah.
I need people to know that that doesn't mean that I'm this, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
just showing that, hey, there's a lot about this gig
Mhm.
that is not really being talked about.
Yeah. I think also too when we think about motherhood, the same way we look at motherhood, it's a relationship.
Right.
So just like a friendship or a marriage or anything like that, where sometimes you don't really like your
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
partner.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
you love
Yeah.
them, but you don't really like them right
Yeah.
now, right? And so although it's glorious and beautiful, you found love, found a partner, blah 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 blah. Sometimes you just want to take a pillow
hmm
and just
Absolutely.
go, "Ugh," but you
And that's
love them. But
real.
you
And
love
that's
them.
human. And that is okay.
And that is okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
sometimes
okay.
we just got to give people more grace.
Mhm.
And so with that, like what do you hope readers take away from spending time in the universe of Dawn and Evelyn?
That you never know what somebody is going through, living.
Yeah.
Think you see people's
Hmm.
highlight reels could be hiding some stuff.
Yeah.
So don't be so quick to put people on pedestals. Don't be so
Hmm.
quick to idolize. Also, don't be so quick to judge.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I think another thing is, I think another, and this is a subtler theme, but the whole dance that the two women do around each other is largely facilitated by online information.
Mm,
So I hope that people maybe take a think about, what am I putting out there, and am I making it
yes.
easy for somebody to stalk me and come find me?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, people at best can use that information. I mean, they are using that information to
Yeah.
manipulate,
To
right?
yeah.
Once we get off of here, me and you are both gonna see ads for
Probably
bunch of
some
different things,
crazy.
diapers and a
Yeah.
bunch of different things, right? But people with even more sinister motives and just trying to sell us things,
Mhm.
can use the information that we freely
Yeah.
put out there to cause some serious havoc in our lives. So think about ways that we can protect oneself, you know?
Mhm.
Even as content creators, there are things that, you can do to safeguard
Safeguard.
and
Yeah.
all of that.
No, for
So,
sure.
yeah, just a different way of thinking about things and thinking about people and thinking about moms, and I definitely wanted there to be a sort of a what would I do in that situation kind of conversation.
No, I love that.
Hmm
So, for readers who connected with the exploration of motherhood and grief and trauma and buried truths, what should they be expecting or looking out for you? Like, what's next?
Ah,
What's next? Go, go, go,
okay.
go, go.
So I am hard at work on my next novel, which is going to be exploring similar themes of identity, but in a different way.
Hmm.
Um, there's no kids involved. We're just kind of focusing on a couple who, without giving too much away, they are sort of trying to find a new equilibrium after a really horrible accident.
Mm.
And when we talk about yeah, how reliable are our memories? How much of our memories actually make us
Yeah.
us? Those are
Mm.
the things we're diving into with that one. So that will be out in the fall, tentatively titled Oblivion. So look out for that. I also have a serial that's going to be launching on Substack next month.
Wow, we love a substance.
For it's a love letter to the 92%. It's a dystopian thriller
Okay, we here. Because
serial.
I feel like
Yes.
I'm in it all the time.
Okay, so then you'll love it. You'll love it. I'm really excited about that because that's also another idea that I've had for a while, like literally years now, and I didn't follow it when it first came through.
Hmm.
And as I'm looking at what's going on in the world today, I'm like, yep, this is God telling you, here's your chance. You need to write this
Do
again.
it.
So it's going there. Um, and it's going to be centered on two sisters, one who is up north and one who is down south, who are trying to A, reconnect, and
Mm-hmm.
B, get out of all that is happening post a stolen election, basically. So that series is called Exodus. Season 0 will be launching at the end of June,
Ooh.
and I will be posting about that a lot. You can only get that on Substack. So
Oh,
I'm gonna
I'm excited for that.
yeah, a mini season 0 before we launch right into season 1, of 3 episodes, kind of showing sort of the collapse of the nation in a sense, and how it went down. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
Mhm.
what's one question you wish I asked you that I didn't?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Good, I was like,
Um,
get in there.
yes, talking about villains.
Oh,
Yes, talking about villains, and I guess
okay.
what my impetus for the villains were. I just, like I say, I like to really explore villains who think that they're the hero. Um,
Mm.
and I did have a conversation with one person who was like, I just don't see how she was able to justify it. And I was like, I do. I totally
All
see
the
how she's
time
able
because
to
she feels
justify it
like
in
this was
her
her
book.
divine right.
You know, I like,
People convince themselves
she
of
is
a lot of
descended from
things.
people who owned people. So,
Listen,
yeah,
listen,
yeah, who owned. And this is not a new practice at all.
hmm
Black women's babies getting stolen.
listen. Joe
So,
Goldberg thought he was right too, and you.
right. So there you go. So I really like that. That's part of one of my favorite parts of just the whole process
Mhm.
of just pre-writing and writing is really getting into my baddie's head and making it so that even if you're reading and you're like, this is deplorable, that you have at least that one moment where you go, well,
Yeah, well,
maybe in another life, in another circumstances, I might could, you know, and again, no justifications at all, but just where you can see where their thought process is going
right.
and see how they have justified it to themselves and
Yeah,
see that and understand that um is something I really like to
yeah.
do.
The only villains I can honestly see are like Disney villains. Like I understand how you got there. Like Scar, like
Yeah,
I
so
understand how you got here. Like it makes sense to me. Like
the
this all
beach.
make like this man, you pick this little man up from the streets and the slums, and then he steals your birthright and then passes on to his kid. I understand Scar. I
Mhm.
wouldn't do it, but I
Right. But you're
understand
gonna
it.
understand it.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
villain order. I'm like, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. So before we wrap up, if someone picked up the perfect mother because they're struggling with their own feelings about motherhood, identity, or living up to just impossible standards that we place on mothers, honestly,
Mm.
what would you want them to know?
I want them to know that like it is okay. Breathe. It's okay to rest.
Yeah.
It is okay to take time for yourself. I'm speaking to myself here as well too still.
Listen, I be the one speaking to myself all the time.
Yes, I'm 100% speaking to myself. It's okay to rest. It's okay to
Hmm.
take a beat. It is okay to breathe. It's okay to let yourself be human, and fallible and
Hmm.
all of that, messy beauty. And then you're probably doing better than you think you are.
Hmm.
Probably just doing better than you think you are.
Doing the best you can with what you got.
Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing good. I tell myself that 101 times a day. Like, you're doing good.
You're
You're
doing
doing
amazing, sweetie.
very good. Yeah.
Yes. So, where can the people find you?
Yes, you can find me at DesireeMoodie.com. And you can find me at Desiree from BK on everything. Well, even though I'm on everything, you probably won't see activity on everything. So if you actually want to see activity, probably stick to Instagram and Threads. But you can find me on everything.
Yes. Listen, that's
Yeah.
me all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I want
Yeah.
to thank you for dropping in on
Thank
But Make It
you for
Books.
having me.
No, thank you for your pen and your words. I know it's very hard to put yourself out there. So I appreciate authors who challenge us, who make us think about things that we wouldn't think about normally,
Mhm.
especially when we're thinking about motherhood. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time and space with me on this holiday.
Thank you.
So with that, y'all, that's another episode of But Make It Books. Of course, rate, subscribe, always shop in Mahogany. And I am so blessed to be a part of their podcast network. And with that, I'm gonna let y'all go, but keep reading, y'all. But make it books. Peace, y'all.